How do you reestablish your relationship with your rebellious teenager? Well, that's what we're talking about today on Tips on Teens. My name is Kent Toussaint. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, and I specialize in helping kids, teens, and families to live happier lives. I lead two organizations, Teen Therapy Center and the nonprofit 501c3 organization, Child and Teen Counseling, both here in Woodland Hills, California. And every Wednesday at noon, I jump onto Facebook Live to answer your parenting questions. Let's answer today's. Now that summer break has started, it feels like anything goes with my daughter. She's been staying out late with her friends and spending far too much time on screens, even though we talked about her doing other things to keep her busy. I tried discussing this with her, but she just gives me an eye roll, got snarky, and blew me off. I long for the days when I felt connected and we understood each other better. Any help you can give me with this rebellious teenager? Thank you for your question. There are kind of two separate issues. They're linked, but they're two separate issues. One is she's not following the rules that you've set. And the second thing is your relationship having more trust and connection with your daughter. Now, are they linked? Yes, but they're separate issues. So I'm going to deal with one at a time. The first is the rules and the boundaries. And I caution you to only try to establish and set rules and boundaries that you can realistically enforce. If you're trying to set boundaries and rules that you cannot enforce, she's not going to follow them as she's shown, right? And when that happens is it builds more distrust between the two of you, more resentment between the two of you, and it just creates more animosity and it gets in the way of you guys connecting. And it stops her from having interest in following your other rules. So if you do have a rule of that she has to be on her screens less or she can't go out as much, then you have to have some way to enforce that. Now, one school of philosophy is, hey, she's an old, I assume she's an older teenager, like driving age. I don't know exactly the age of this teenage girl, but let's assume she's of driving age, 16, 17, 18, somewhere in there. One could argue that, hey, she's got to learn some independence. She's going to have to take her lumps. Let her live, through life's experiences. Now, if you think that she's able to make relatively safe choices and not getting herself in danger that's outside of what could be expected for any teenager, maybe you let her go and get her lumps. However, if you feel like she's putting herself in more danger than you can accept, and that level is going to depend on what family and what parents and what kid there's going to be. So there's no one way to measure that. You have to measure that the way you feel is best for your kid. If you feel that she's stepping beyond what is reasonable risk in life, then you have to somehow pull her back. Now, she's going to hate it, she's going to resent it, and you have to be prepared for that. But also, again, you have to have a way to enforce that. There's a lot of ways to do that, and it really depends on what's going on in your family. That's a much more detailed conversation that we can cover in just a 5-minute video. Secondly, connection. It's normal for teenagers to push away from their parents. It is normal adolescent behavior. We all have done it. It's normal for teenagers to do it. It's how they start developing that sense of independence and autonomy in their life. But they also need something stable and strong to push away from, right? They need a strong, safe, loving, accepting relation with their parents to push away from, so it's easier to come back and bounce back. Without that, they're more in danger of going off and getting into drugs, alcohol, anything else that scares parents out of their wits. So find ways to connect with her on her terms. It's kind of like a cat, Dogs are easy. A dog loves being around you whenever you're around the dog. Dog loves it. But cats, I know it's a kind of a cliche analogy, but, there's that one meme goes around that, teenagers are like cats. They only come out when they're hungry, and then if you talk to them, they hiss at you. Some teenagers, that's really apropos, unfortunately. Some of you parents watching were that teenager, and, you can remember being that way. So, so finding ways to connect. That could be only talking about things that they're interested in. Asking about how was school today is probably a dead-end conversation. Talking about music, her favorite TV shows, her favorite YouTubers, things that she finds value in, that may be something that holds more interest for her. Also, could be things like, remember she was 10 and you'd brush her hair. Offer to brush her hair, I don't know if she'd respond to that, but it's something. Maybe at bedtime she's more relaxed, rubbing her back like you did when she was 7. Is she more open to having those conversations? Also, don't always put the conversation on her that you're interviewing her and she has to answer. Sharing things that you feel are appropriate about your life may open up things that she may start being interested in you and curious about you and your life, whether what you were like as a teenager, what your life is like now. Obviously, you don't have to share everything because some things are inappropriate to share with your teenage children. But when you can, share. Not that it is her responsibility to take care of your feelings, because it is not. But anything that you feel like is appropriate, find those ends. And again, she may never fully embrace you as a teenager the way she did when she was 10. But in the back of her mind, she knows mom or dad is always there. And maybe as she goes off to college and she comes back for spring break or summer break, whatever, she's like, now she feels more connected to you. It's a long game. And sometimes the teenage years, you're not going to get the appreciation, the affection that you want from your teenagers. This is unfortunately a very common thing. You're not abnormal if you're going through this. It's not abnormal to have that affection too, but it's all over the map. It's not because you're a good or bad parent. A lot of times it's just their born temperament and who they are. So make sure that the self-judgment is kept at bay, and keep finding ways to connect with her in ways that she finds meaningful, not the way that you necessarily find meaningful. You have to find a way to cross the bridge. You can't expect her to meet you halfway. She doesn't have that capacity. You have to cross almost the other side of the bridge to have her come just a little bit of the ways. Anyways, that's our question for today. Thank you for your questions. I'm off next week, so there will be no Tips on Teens next Wednesday. So those of you who've emailed questions, there's a couple of you. I'll get back to you in mid-July. But if you have a question you'd like me to answer, please email us at tipsonteens@teentherapycenter.com. Again, my name is Kent Toussaint with Teen Therapy Center and Child and Teen Counseling. And I hope you guys have a great 4th of July, and I'll see you in 2 weeks. Bye-bye.